From CNN, Trump shrugs off questions over Epstein memo, calling them a desecration.
Oh, boy.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that.
Anyway, what she basically responds with is she didn't mean the Epstein list was on her desk. She meant the files were on her desk. She needed to go through it. She says the reason the minute is missing from the footage is because every day the camera resets at the start of a new day. So every day is missing this minute, which literally doesn't do anything. It like answers nothing and proves nothing. The big point of the story is Trump saying, well, you're talking about this still. Why are you talking about it? Because you campaigned on releasing the files and you've been in office for a few months. So we're asking you, what's up?
That's the most evasive that I've seen the president on. I don't know why he didn't just brush it off or give some, theatrical answer that he does to a lot of serious questions. Yep. But no, he kind of, with his body posture and everything, I feel as though you could tell the cabinet and the president are concerned about this story and they need to think of a way to get their base off of this, because I think it's his base that's, again, most invested.
It's everybody in the country, even the left is going after it. You know what offends me the most? How bad they are at this. Yeah. That's what my only conclusion is. They're intentionally making it seem like a cover-up, because how are they so bad? Like, seriously, Dan Bongino could have come out and said, guys, there's an investigation. We're looking into it, and we don't want to compromise it. So I'm sorry, but you're going to have to be patient with us because we have to make sure we do it right. End of story. And then people would have been like, okay. Trump could have come out and said something similar. Look, we've got a lot of big things to deal with. I appreciate the question. I know it matters to you. I know it's important. I'm sorry, but I cannot deviate from a conversation about little girls who died so you can talk about this political story. But why are they so bad at it?
What do you think this says, though, about the credibility of Cash and Bongino? Because these were guys who had so much political capital in the MAGA space.
The most convincing thing, I talked to Mike Cernovich today, because he's the one who blew this whole thing open, him and the Miami Herald. And he said that he thinks that there is some kind of, what did he call it? I think he called it a super system. I'm not sure. A system above the government that terrified Dan Bongino. He said he looked terrified in that interview when he said he killed himself. And he didn't seem like himself. I don't know. I trust Cash and Dan. But the most compelling thing that I've heard is there is something we don't know that has these people terrified related to Epstein. Now, it may be as simple as there is something behind the scenes related to Epstein that I believe the most probabilistic reason. What Epstein was doing goes far above and beyond what anyone actually knows. And it would cause massive damage if this compromising information gets out. Weakening the U.S. system or compromising allies and trade routes.
Or the CIA.
Or the CIA itself. Tucker Carlson was saying some of these top-ranking CIA guys might have been diddlers. But Cernovich was implying he thinks that there is either the banking families, the trillionaires, powerful forces in government that exist above the system. And that's what's got them so scared that they would actually say something as dumb as this that convinces nobody.
To play devil's advocate, though, there's so many very rich, powerful, influential people who we already know spent a lot of time with him. For example, Bill Gates, one of the reasons that his wife ended up divorcing him was because he spent so much time with this guy. And he's photographed with so many, why does there have to be somebody above the system when even Donald, the president, was photographed with him? And even Elon Musk accused him of being somehow implicated in this stuff.
The point that he's making is that there is a power structure that is more powerful and terrifying than the U.S. government.
I just feel like that's a polite excuse for the people in power right now. It's so convenient.
What is the? So you think what?
Well, Cernovich is saying no.
No. That's not what I'm asking. For Dan Bongino and Cash, who have come out now saying he killed himself, nothing to see here, were they paid? Why are they doing it?
If you believe something is happening, then you believe they are compromised. If you believe there's
how are they compromised?
They're compromised by
paid off.
Not paid off, just told that you can't do this or you won't keep this position, or us as the CIA.
You think Dan wants a $175,000 a year job over his $30 million a year podcast career? If he's told you can't actually enforce the law and expose these people, you think he's going to be like, I guess I'll stick with the low six figures out of my $30 million show.
And if
Maybe
he were
thinks
to
it's
come
for the
out and
greater
say
good.
anything
It's
about,
like
if
that
he were to
simple.
come out and be like, oh, blah, 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 I had to speak my mind and I had to tell the truth, that would only make his podcasting career and people respect him
Seriously.
more. Yeah.
If he quit right now and said, guys, they wouldn't give it to me. I fought so hard and I realized this machine's broken. I'm done.
Trying to say
love
there's
him.
a power above them, I feel is just trying to give them an excuse, is how I feel.
What?
To,
An excuse to what?
them saying that Epstein didn't kill himself.
Okay, let's try this again. Elaad. An excuse to do what?
An excuse
what are
for
they?
them-
Why are they doing
For
it?
an excuse for Dan Bongino and Kash Patel to get off, to get off easy from saying that
All right,
he
well,
didn't kill
let's just
himself.
Pause real quick. Why?
Why? I don't know why.
Okay, so you said they are using it as an excuse, right? We understand they didn't release the information. But what excuse do they need? What are they doing? What have they done that is so wrong they need an excuse?
They're saying that Epstein didn't kill himself.
Indeed.
It was us. Is why?
Why are they saying
Because
that?
it was us.
Because what? Because they did it? Because Dan Bongino.
Because if it were, it wouldn't be a.
Because it was the FBI that did
it
it.
wouldn't be a successful blackmail operation if it didn't blackmail both sides.
So I think the simple answer is, as many people have already pointed out, there was that U.S. attorney that charged Epstein the first time in 2009 and said, I was told he was intelligence and to back off.
Yeah.
So the simple answer is Dan, Cash, Pam, Trump looked at the data and they said, Epstein wasn't the guy. It was the United States of America
And
that was doing
MI5,
this. MI6 and the CIA together were controlling people. I mean,
Five Eyes.
I got to be honest. We talk about the tales of the economic hitman and how we bribe world leaders. The economic hitman, there's this story where the guy says, the U.S. government will first try to bribe you, say, come join the IMF, the World Bank, SWIFT, and all that stuff, and we'll make you rich. But then you're indebted to these countries, and they effectively control you. Some of the world leaders resist. So what do? We stage coups and try to overthrow them or trigger elections. If that doesn't work, we invade and we take them out. But there are other ways to take out a politician and control them. Wouldn't there be a step? Wouldn't there be a step in there before trying to overthrow the election? Wouldn't you go to the politician and say, join the IMF? And they say, with all due respect, I politely decline. You say, that's okay. We do appreciate your time. How would you like to come to an island party with us? Then they film you and they blackmail you and they say, now we own you.
Well, long before Israel, long before the OSS, there was the Anglo-American establishment. And this book was written in the late 40s by Carroll Quigley, and he said, don't publish it until I'm dead. This was Bill Clinton's professor who he cited during his DNC speech. And what he says at the beginning of the book is, I know that these secret societies exist. I researched them. The only thing I don't agree with is the fact that they're secret. And what he outlines is basically the British government using secret societies like Bilderberg, the predecessors to the Council of Foreign Relations and the WEF. And all of that went back to like Rhodes, and Rhodes was a diddler. He started the Boy Scouts. So this all goes back to ever since, the 1800s, the British Empire has been using these tactics to maintain power for exactly the reasons you said. It's cheaper than invading a country.
I agree on the surface with Cernovich about some kind of super system or, structure. I don't know that I'd go as far as he does, but I do believe that there is probably something above government. And the point he made was, he's like, I know rich people. I know millionaires. I know billionaires. Whoop-de-doo. Who cares? A lot of people do. They don't talk like this, and they don't do these things. They don't talk about getting on jets and flying to islands for baby oil parties. He was like, this is the weird thing. He's like, I know a bunch of wealthy people, actors, like well-off people. Nobody is talking about having baby oil parties. Never come up. So who is this group of people that have baby oil freak-offs?
He's not cool enough to go to the baby oil party.
But he's making a good point. I told him the story. I was invited to an Upper West Side a party in New York, and it was this guy's probably worth $1 billion. His kid inherited a bunch of money and had a mansion with a bunch of legit crazy paintings in it, all super rich, New York upper crust. And they said, everyone's bringing a bottle of liquor of some sort, so bring something, would you? And I'm thinking like, oh man, like what can I really afford to bring to this guy's party? So I bought a bottle of Maker's Mark. It was $45. And when I showed up, they went, whoa, you bought Maker's Mark? Like, wow, thanks, man. And they had Absolute, and they had like Svedka, and they had Jack Daniels. And I was like, this is all like just mid-shelf stuff. This is like $15. I went high end. The conversation these people had were nothing like flying on jets, going to islands, baby oil parties. They were actually acting rather broke. They weren't talking about going out. Here's the other secret. I flew with a billionaire once on a private jet. He didn't own it. It's called net jets. You for a couple $100,000, you got a percentage of a fleet, and then you pay the landing fees and you fly at your convenience, and it's a couple grand per flight depending on where you're going. So you'll get, you could spend $5,000 to fly 6 or 7 people, and it's the same thing as first class, but you have an equity investment. People don't. There are very few people that own private jets this way, where they fly whenever they want. Very few. There are very few people that own big yachts. So this is what I agree with Mike Cernovich about, is these stories about pizza parties and like the weird, Obama $50,000 worth of hot dogs and pizza and baby oil and stuff. Who are these people that do this? Because these conversations don't happen even in the high celebrity status, wealthy areas, at least not publicly. The point is, it implies there is some kind of, I use the phrase secret society because it's not like they're a power cabal controlling the world, but there are groups of people that know how to communicate with each other to engage in freak-offs. Diddy had these parties, and nobody walked up to someone else and said, hey, you want to go to a Diddy freak-off and rub baby oil with like a big orgy? Those conversations don't happen. So they know how to communicate in a way to expand their influence in the weird things they do, like flying to Epstein's Island. The point Cernovich was making is that billionaires don't do these things. So when Bill Gates is like, I'm going to fly to this island real quick, it's like, what is he actually doing there? What's going on? Something is going on there, and it's more than what we realize. Certainly the trafficking of minors.
Well, a lot of those people during that time period of the whole thing of, that ping pong place that won't be mentioned, if you looked at the people who were adjacent to Elefantis, Elefantis had his avatar was Antonius, who was like the most notorious boy lover in Roman history. And so he had that avatar, and that's like a signal only to the people who are looking. And then you look at the comments of the people that he's associating with, and they're using this phraseology, like you were saying, hot dogs or chicken lovers or these kind of pizza, These are all coded terms that nobody who's looking on the surface would understand unless they know exactly where to look. And so you're right.
It doesn't happen
They're
in
not
public.
using that kind of terminology. They're saying, oh, I left my handkerchief back there. They're not saying.
And it's like, they're speaking in code.
Yes, they're speaking in code. Exactly. So it's just,
Maybe.
you're never going to know it unless you're part of the club, which you don't want to be part of.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Cernovich thinks it's more mystical. He said, I don't know if they're actual demons, but they feed off the energy of children or something like that.
Jack Parsons, the father of American rocket technology, was an occultist. He did the Babylon Woking, tried to bring forth the Antichrist.
I'll just wrap up by saying this before we go to Super Chats. For Donald Trump to get as agitated as he did is weird. For Dan Bongino to speak the way he did about this seems strange. He was on Timcast IRL saying people thought that this guy was a Middle Eastern intelligence, and everyone laughed like, oh, Middle Eastern, huh? And now it's Epstein killed himself. They released this video that shows nothing. It's not even a cell. It's just the entrance to a tier, and there's a minute missing from the footage, and there's people coming and going. So what does it prove? The memo's unsigned. Who published this? This is all very strange.
Really weird.
My argument was, what could actually convince Dan Bongino to come out and say, nothing to see here, folks? But particularly in such a way that is unbelievable by the average person.
The Nephilim, maybe. Maybe the Nephilim are running it.
I mean, my point is, I think Cernovich doesn't believe that someone like Dan could be threatened and terrified. I disagree. I think if there was a deep state and they went to Dan and they said, they showed a picture of his daughter at her school or something and said, she's our first target unless you do as we say, I think most people would just be like, I'll do whatever you say to protect their families.
I think that's more likely than the secret government stuff.
But don't take secret government. But don't take secret government. Like, this is the problem with secret society and secret government is people live in movies. They don't live in reality.
Yeah.
The deep state exists. It's real. We know for a fact it's real. There is a deep state. That's the secret government. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.